Hey guys, it's Vince with Green Joe Coffee, and today I am going to cover my most profitable day on the coffee truck. On this day, I was invited to do catering or concession. I was invited to do concession at the New Mexico Bowl, which is also known as the Gildan Bowl. That's their sponsor they have. And it was on... Originally, I was approached to do some small catering for the company Levy. They run the concession stands at the University of New Mexico football stadium. They're a third-party organization. That's the main thing that they do, as I understand it. And they wanted me to do kind of some VIP stuff with them. Some box seat espresso catering. So that was originally how the deal started. And then from there, it evolved into setting up at the Gildan Bowl and serving coffee to the attendants. I had some hesitations with this originally. One of the main hesitations was that the concession stands also served hot drinks and therefore would be cutting into my profit. So somehow we were able to create a deal where the concession stands would not serve hot chocolate or hot coffee, and I would be the sole provider of hot chocolate and hot coffee to the attendees at the New Mexico Gildan Bowl. So let's do a little bit of history on the New Mexico Gildan Bowl, or the New Mexico Bowl. It is a NCAA college football bowl game. It's one of the first ones in the season, and it started in 2006. So when I came to it, it was in its 10th year, and my event was December 17th of 2016. That's when I set up at this football game. It was a Saturday where the University of Texas San Antonio, UTSA, was playing against the New Mexico Lobos in this bowl game. And it was a cold day. It was 37 degrees that day. And the total attendance was 29,688 people. And of course, that doesn't include the vendors and the staff. So 30,000 total is the figures that I use. And I was the sole provider of the hot chocolate and coffee. And that negotiation did not happen instantly. I remember I went back and forth with the general manager for a while before we were able to really create that. I was at the point where I was okay stepping away from the deal because I felt like it was really high risk for me. What do I mean by that? Well, you got to pay people to show up and serve your coffee, so you got labor cost. You got to float the cost of the insurance, and so that was one that I didn't see coming into the deal. I thought that my insurance would be enough, but when you're dealing with these big boys, the big stadiums, the big conferences, they usually require significant greater liability insurance, general liability insurance. So I'd like to say that the policy I had to hold was it was a $5 million policy that I had to hold. And so it cost me somewhere around, I'd like to say $500. I don't remember exactly, but I remember the cost was significant. I had to pay for basically, the way it was set up was like they bill you in half years, I believe, like 6 months. Might have been 3 months, might have been quarters. And so you have to put a down payment for that insurance plan. And that down payment was like the $500. And then, of course, I was able to cancel after the event because I didn't need that policy for the entire year. But the way they set it up is you have to cough up a pretty significant amount of money up front. And that's smart. The insurance company makes you do that. Just running the numbers on labor and on cost of goods, my milk, my coffee, that type of thing. It was significant. The amount of money that I had to pay was significant. And I was like, I felt like I was going to have to float somewhere between $2,000 to $3,000. And for me to float $2,000 to $3,000 and hope to make some money, I needed to ensure that no other competition was at the event. So they agreed to duct tape. Is what they did. They duct tape their menu on their concession stands so that they were sold out of hot chocolate and hot coffee. Cool. So I became the sole provider for this event. And I'd like to show you guys where I set up and how this set up. So here you can see this big red X right here is the gate. It's basically only one way that you can get in and get out. And so that was the gate. And just to the right of that big red X, you're going to see kind of this dotted black line. And that was some type of that was some kind of rope that they put up to kind of hurdle the cattle into walking straight down. Basically, what they didn't want people to do, they wanted to funnel people into the middle of the stadium where the general admissions were. So they had this kind of rope off, and you can see here I put in little pink dots the flow of traffic. So there were two main concession stands. You can see a big purple X is what I used for the two main concession stands. And so people would go there, and then of course there were two entrances to the seating sections, and so the entrances to the seating sections are pretty much right by the purple X's there. So Green Joe Coffee was set up. I was able to get the location right there, Gate 6. If you can't see it, I just put a little coffee trailer, and that's where I set up my coffee trailer. So pretty much right away as you stepped in from the gate and you went to go find your seats, you would see my coffee trailer. I really wanted visibility. Those of you that have been following me for a while know that I'm a big advocate of getting prime location. I'll walk away from an event if I don't get prime location. It is a must for me. So there I got prime location. You could see as people, are kind of herded along that dotted black line, they then get to make a decision if they're going to go left or right, wherever their seats are based upon. So that was the setup of the football stadium and the location where I was at. And so I had to go set up, I'd like to say I had to set up 2 days beforehand for health inspection and fire inspections, which meant I couldn't do any catering that Thursday and that Friday, and I ended up missing out on some movie sets, Netflix, and a lot of films were made here in 2016. We made good money, and typically Friday nights is when they would book me, so usually I would do one or two movie sets on a Friday night, and I would make $500 or $1,000 Friday night. So I had to miss out on that income on that particular weekend, and so I set up there a couple days beforehand and went through my health and my fire inspection. I had to get a state propane inspection, so that the state came down and inspected a grill that I was using. All right, so let's show you the actual setup here. All right, so in this photo, I tried to do a diagram again of the stadium. So the red's the stadium. The big red X's in this particular case is where the entrance to the seats are. And here you're going to see I have Green Joe coffee truck set up, and the green rectangles are different tables that I use. Now, when I set this up, really what I was trying to do was mimic the way that they set up beer stands at concerts. If you go to a beer stand, I'm a big advocate of stealing from industry leaders the framework that's worked. So if you go to a concert and you go to, purchase beer, which is a mass-produced beverage, it's essentially what I'm trying to do, is be a mass-produced beverage. Typically what you do is you get in line and you walk up to the cashier, and the cashier, there's usually 3 or 4 drinks that they have on tap. The cashier will ring you up. She will turn around to a table, grab your beer, and hand you your beer, and then you're gone. So usually behind that table is some poor Joe, and his job is simply just to pour beer and put it on the table. So they kind of have this assembly line that they use to produce, beverage. And so I really wanted to take a page out of their book and model that assembly line. So basically that's what you see here is each one of these green rectangles is a table. And the first table, the one with the coins, that's my cashier table. You can see I have 4 baristas standing behind the cashier table. And then right behind the baristas, or the cashiers, I should say, because they were all cashiers. Right behind the cashiers was another table where we would line up chocolates and coffees and lattes. I did serve, I think caramel was the flavor I went with that day. And then behind that table was Green Joe Coffee Truck. And inside Green Joe Coffee Truck, I had 2 baristas. And then behind Green Joe Coffee Truck, I had 2 more tables. One table was actually a barbecue grill. It was one of those camp stove setups with big old not air pots, but big old, what do they call them? Like vats. I use these, I got them from Amazon. I'm pretty sure they're on my resource page. But they're used for like crawdad, for cooking crawfish. I like them because they're 16 gallons each, so you can boil a significant amount of water. And the spigot is down on the bottom, and it has a locking mechanism. So there's a nice little safety latch on the spigot itself to just makes it safer, which is great. So the hot chocolate there with the little candy canes sticking out, that table was really just a camp stove that was boiling up those vats. And then I had another table that's kind of running parallel to that. You can see I have a coffee pot on that, and that's where I had my coffee pots. I had 3 of them, and we were making air pot. We were making coffee and delivering it into the air pot. And then down there was a person that their sole job was just to make coffee. That's what they did there. You can see right below the coffee pot, I had a person there. Her name was Dada, a wonderful woman out of Chicago that was really, really savvy, smart gal. And she did a phenomenal job on maintaining the coffee production throughout the event. And then down there, I got below her, I have a blue trash can. And that blue trash can, so we basically used a trash can and filled it full of layers of milk and ice. And that's how I refrigerated my milk at this event. So we were making milk-based hot chocolate. Believe me, we got our butts handed to us. Basically, Dada, this gal, would make coffee, and she would run the coffee pots into the truck, where there was a barista that would then pour them into a cup and put it on the table. I had another barista, and his sole job, that was my brother, Tony, his sole job was just making the lattes. That's all he did, was making caramel lattes. And then I had the 4 cashiers, and their job was just to collect money. And then here you can see I used zombies as my attendants because they were in need of coffee and hot chocolate. So anyhow, the zombies were the line basically of the people that wanted hot chocolate and hot coffee. And so that's the setup that I used for the stadium. I think, looking back, I was pretty new at this, and it was one of my first very large events, and I've learned a lot since. So I wouldn't quite do it this way anymore. I very much transitioned over to a water-based hot chocolate when it comes to creating hot chocolates. And that's just because it is so much easier. It's absolutely so much easier to create a large amount of hot chocolate, because you boil the water and then you add hot chocolate to the water, mix it up, and you're good to go. So, but back then we were steaming the hot chocolate and putting it into Cambros, and I had gone in early that day and preheated all the Cambros so that they were piping hot, so that when you drain the water out of them and filled them with hot chocolate, then the hot chocolate would remain hot. So, I mean, we really did a lot to try to maintain quality, probably too much. I think it would have been significantly easier on our part to just do a water-based hot chocolate. In fact, this event here was the one that forced me to go out and look for a good water-based hot chocolate, because after this event I was like, well, I don't want to ever do that again, so that was a dang mess. But the assembly line that we used was actually a really good assembly line. Learning from the past, learning from this event, I probably did not need 4 cashiers. I probably could have gotten away with 2 cashiers. But at the time, I didn't know where the bottleneck would be. I thought the transaction would be the bottleneck. I was wrong about that. So the transaction was not the bottleneck. We were able to maintain enough hot chocolate on this table so that the cashiers could always turn around and grab a hot chocolate or a coffee. So we never stressed about production. The production line never faltered, but really there was a lot of standing around on the cashier's part. So I think I could have cut the labor cost down by at least 2 cashiers. Now I'd like to say I paid them $150 a piece, so that would have only saved me $300. But regardless, efficiency, we should always seek for it, and so I think that would have been a way to become more efficient. The other thing about this event was I'd like to say that I sold maybe 5 lattes. So having a barista pull shots from the espresso machine and do lattes was absolutely redundant. It did not need to be there. I could have easily had like a chai tea latte that's water based, and would have been able to make people just as happy, and I think probably happier. I think chai tea latte with a hot chocolate and hot coffee is a phenomenal way to do events. I think that's probably the best route that I've found so far. So I could have removed another barista from the equation. That's another $150. I think it was my brother, so I think I paid him a little bit more, but whatever. That would have been another $150 saved. And then at that point, I would have had one person just working on making coffee and another person working on making hot chocolate. Now, since this event, we've learned how to do cold brew and heat up cold brew. So we brew it over 18 hours, develop a concentrate, dilute the concentrate to a drinkable coffee solution, and then heat that solution to 180 degrees. So we take a cold brew and then heat it and serve it as a drip coffee, and that allows for mass production because I can make 15 gallons of cold brew at the same time. So that by that technique, doing the cold brew technique, has allowed me to just put one person on cold brew reheating and hot chocolate making. So that's another way I could have cut my labor. So again, that would have boiled it down to 2 cashiers, a person making cold brew and hot coffee, and then myself. And then down here, down at the bottom next to the trash can, the guy running around, that was me. So I didn't have a specific job. My job was really just to put out any fires that I needed to, go get more water if I needed to, go get milk for someone, count the drawers. Throughout the shift, I think on the hour, they would have someone come down and I would have to count the drawers out and deposit the money. That's how they work because they take a percentage out at the end of the day. So, changing credit card machine rolls, that type of thing. So that's basically what I was doing. If someone had to go use the bathroom, I would fill in for them, that type of thing. So yeah, so I think the assembly line worked well. I think it's a good model, but ultimately I think a better model would be water-based chai tea latte, cold brew reheating, and water-based hot chocolate. And I think that would be a much easier model. You wouldn't even need a truck at that point. You can do all that off of a camp stove. And so essentially we've used that same model at like Christmas markets and stuff, and have done just as fine when it comes to production. So I think that's the way that I do it these days. But on this particular day, that's the way I did it then. So I'd like to take a little time now just to kind of show you a video that I had captured. It's a short video, 28-second video, something like that. But that I had captured the day of, so you can kind of see live what that looked like.
So this is Green Joe at full fledged. We're here at the Gildan Football Bowl, and 30,000 participants. We're currently rocking 216-gallon vats, 3 air pots, and steaming as much hot chocolate as possible. Say hello to the internet.
Hello, internet.
So on that particular day, let's kind of talk numbers. My total sales were $6,770. Now, that's the most money I've made in one day. I've made more in 2 days, so I've done 2-day festivals, 2-day events, and have made more. I have a $7,000 under my wing for a 2-day event. I have a $9,000 under my wing. I had a 2-week event in which I made 15 grand. So that was a large festival. That was Desert Trip, which was held at Coachella in Indio, California. If you guys have heard me talk about my Rolling Stones concert, that's the concert. So that one I made 15 grand in 6 days. They did 2 weekends, so 3 days, 1 weekend, 3 days, another weekend. But this particular one was this event, the Gildan Bowls, where I made the most money in a single day. Now we are selling our hot chocolates and coffee at $5 a piece. So we sold a total of 1,354 cups, and whether or not that's chocolate or coffee. I didn't break up those numbers. I wish I had those for you on what sold more, chocolate or coffee. I'll give you my gut. My gut says we sold more hot chocolates that day because it was cold. It was 37 degrees out. All of us were cold. All of us were drinking hot chocolate. So we sold a lot. That day it got started a little bit later. I don't have the exact start times. I did try to go find them, but I don't have the exact start times. I'd like to say kickoff was at 11 a.m. So, a lot of the coffee drinkers had already consumed their morning coffee. And again, if you've heard me talk about starting at festivals or events, it's better to start earlier in the morning because you're more likely to catch people that haven't had a cup of coffee yet. Later in the day, people have a chance to get their cup of coffee. So the other thing is, and I'll show you a picture of this, I purchased a big sign to stretch out in front of the coffee truck that just said coffee. And so it was a 10 by 2 foot sign that just simply said coffee, and I hung that out there. You can see I have some of the cashiers standing in front of it. And that coffee sign was extremely visible, so that brought people in as well. So that's good. So $6,770 divided by 5 is 1,354 cups. Now, I didn't get to keep all of that 6,770. They took 25% right off the top. So concession, that's just the cost of their concession. So minus the 5,000, so minus the 25%, that left me with $5,077.50. So $5,077 minus my labor. So I had the 7 people on board. So that was, 6 people. So that was No, I had 7 people. Excuse me. So 7 people on board, 150 a piece. That's $1,050. That left me with 4,027. And then my cost of goods, the average cost per cup that it cost me. So I had to buy all the milk, all the cups, all the lids, all that stuff, and float that, right? So that was another $1,000.15, and that's at 75 cents per cup. That's the average cost of goods. Hot chocolate's a little bit less, coffee's a little bit more, 75 cents per cup. And that left me with a whopping $3,012. So, I look back on it and I go, okay, it was 3 days of work for $3,012, so it's $1,000 a day. How good is that? It's okay. That event could have very well gone bad for me if I did not have a good location and if I did not have the concessions, duct tape their hot beverages. I could see myself easily not doing good at that and possibly going upside down or working 3 days to break even. So, this always goes back to, and I teach this stuff in my Building a Profitable Business course when we talk about events. When you're doing an event, it's extremely important to do events where you don't have competition, because then you're cutting your profits in half. So, getting my competition and removing any hot beverage being sold from any other concession stand really helped. I think the location was prime. I think that was extremely, extremely beneficial, because as soon as you came in through the gate, you saw that big coffee sign, and you're cold, so that's going to stand out. So I think that really helped. I think I probably spent about double the amount that I had to on labor, but I had never done a 30,000 person event. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know any bottlenecks or kinking or how any of this stuff worked. So I was like over prepared, which I guess is a good thing. It's better to be over than under, right? But yeah, so I was over prepared. So I did pay much in labor. I think I paid a lot in cost of goods because I did milk-based hot chocolate. It would have been significantly cheaper to do water-based chocolate and chai tea lattes. I would have cut down probably about $500 out of my cost of goods. I would have cut that basically in half. So I think managing my labor and managing my cost of goods, I could have bumped this event up to a $4,000 event. 4,000 net profit. So I lost $1,000 because of inexperience. And you learn those lessons, and I've applied, the lesson from that event, I've applied it through multiple events after that. So I paid my $1,000 in education and hard knocks, really is what that came down to. And then since then have been able to really capitalize on events. And I'm smarter about it now. I set up a merchandise booth next to me. I sell a lot of additional goods, so I'll bump my average ticket from $5 up to $7. Sometimes I can get it up to $10 an average ticket. And then, when you run the numbers at $1,354 tickets, and you can get it up to $10 a ticket, then you're sitting pretty at 10 grand. I would, these days I'd make significantly more money based upon the knowledge, but you got to go through the school of hard knocks or watch videos of guys that have and try to learn from my screw ups. Anyways, all right. So my name is Vince, Green Joe Coffee Truck. I sell an ebook online on how to build coffee trucks. I have multiple courses now, a crash course on how to build on how to do coffee trucking. I have a course on how to build profitable coffee truck business, catering business. So yeah, I've got all that stuff on my website, greenjoecoffeetruck.com. I hope this was helpful for you, and if it's valuable, do me a favor and hit a like, and thanks so much for tuning in.